On December 8, 1980, 40-year-old former Beatle and cultural icon John Lennon was murdered by a deranged 25-year-old fan named Mark David Chapman outside Lennon's apartment building in New York City. But how did this happen? And how did Lennon's fans react? That morning, Chapman was waiting outside the Dakota, the Lennon family's home. He greeted the family nanny as she returned from a walk with Lennon's young son, Sean. Chapman told the boy he was a beautiful boy, echoing the lyrics of Lennon's song about Sean. Chapman was still outside the Dakota around 6 p.m. when Lennon left the building with his wife, Yoko Ono. Chapman had recently bought a copy of Lennon's new album, Double Fantasy. Lennon paused to greet some of the fans waiting on the street and even signed Chapman's copy of the album. An eerie amateur photograph captured Lennon and Chapman together during that signing. After Lennon left for the evening, Chapman oddly decided to toss the signed album into a planter box near the Dakota and then stayed outside, waiting. Lennon and Ono returned home just before 11 p.m. Their plan was to say goodnight to little Sean and then head back out to a restaurant. They stepped out of their limousine and walked through the archway leading into the Dakota, where Chapman was waiting. This time, he struck. Chapman fired 5 shots, hitting Lennon 4 times in the back. The building's doorman reacted quickly, knocking the revolver from Chapman's hand and kicking it out of reach. Chapman then sat down on the sidewalk and began thumbing through a copy of J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye until police arrived and arrested him. Lennon was rushed to the hospital but died soon after arriving. When the news hit, mourners began gathering outside the Dakota in shock and grief. 2 days later, Lennon's remains were cremated and scattered in Central Park. Fans struggled to process what had happened. Chapman pleaded guilty to the murder and was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. He has come up for parole multiple times over the years and has been repeatedly denied. John Lennon continues to be an icon 45 years after his untimely death. His music and activism continue to influence people around the world. Here are other events that happened today in history. In 1775, American forces led by Benedict Arnold begin a siege of Quebec that fails on New Year's Eve. In 1940, the Chicago Bears crushed the Washington Redskins 73-0 in the NFL championship game. In 1941, FDR gives his Day of Infamy speech before Congress, and the U.S. declares war on Japan. In 1949, Chiang Kai-shek and the Chinese nationalists flee to the island of Taiwan. In 1993, Clinton signs NAFTA, creating a free trade zone between Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. In 2007, Florida quarterback Tim Tebow becomes the first underclassman to win the Heisman. In 2024, Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris reopens more than 5 years after a devastating fire. And now it's time for our Today in History quiz. Which deadly infectious disease was declared eradicated from the earth in 1979? Anthrax? Bubonic plague? Smallpox? Or polio? Liked learning about the death of John Lennon? Then you'll love this one about when he first met Paul McCartney. Tap the screen to keep the story going on Today in History.